Thank you, Linda. We have the pleasure to welcome future MP Dr. Basem El Shabb today to talk about Lebanon and the current developments. Thank you for being here, Dr. Shabb.
Thank you, Youmna.
Hezbollah is calling upon its rivals in the March 14 coalition to present a vision to end the political stalemate. Since former President Moshe Sulaiman's term ended 3 months today. So after 10 attempts to elect a successor, they failed because of lack of consensus. So what is March 14's vision?
Well, March 14 views this as a democratic process. It behooves March 14 deputies to go to Parliament when called upon to elect a president. A pre-arranged agreement, such as a pre-arranged marriage, is not a necessity in the Constitution. What really is preventing the president from being elected is one, that March 8 is not showing up in Parliament, and therefore there's no quorum in Parliament. Second, Hezbollah's continued support of General Aoun as their candidate has effectively blocked election of a president.
But we were talking a bit about this before the interview. You mentioned that Hezbollah has tended to be a little more flexible in recent.
Yes.
When it comes to not the president, just security situation, but they're saying that the fact that there is a presidential vacuum is affecting the presidential elections. Is that true?
It is true. At this point in time, Hezbollah feels it is very important to support General Aoun. But time is of the essence, and the fact that sectarian tensions have reached Iraq and Syria and are spilling over into Lebanon will force Hezbollah at some point to gently advise General Aoun that this is no longer tenable.
Who do you think is going to be the next president of Lebanon?
One can only guess. But the fact is that the next president of Lebanon is going to be somebody that has a Christian, broad-based Christian. And I think it's very difficult to have a Christian president that doesn't have a widespread support amongst the Christians in Lebanon. Theoretically, the Muslim majority and some Christians can elect a president. But I think in view of what's happening in the Middle East, the Christian dilemma in Iraq and Syria, the next president will have to have a broad Christian base. And my feeling is this situation, as is, will inevitably lead to the Parliament having to extend its tenure.
Any nomination, any name you care to maybe drop?
And it's dangerous to drop names,
especially.
But often when names are dropped, it is it's not doing the people any favor.
Okay, fine.
And when names are dropped early in the game, and it's probably still early, it is to sidetrack these names and not to do
You
them
mentioned the Christian dilemma in Iraq. There's been a lot of fear here after the clashes in Arsel and the security situation that ISIS, which we've seen in the last couple of weeks with worsening clashes in Iraq and in Syria, there's been a lot of fear that this could spread to Lebanon. And according to what you're saying, Lebanon better stay stable because it's in everybody's interest. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Lebanon, the stability in Lebanon is a regional interest. For sure, Saudi Arabia and Iran are not interested in sectarian tensions in Lebanon. And we've seen flexibility from the Iranian side, we've seen flexibility from the Saudi side, not to have escalation in sectarian tensions. Strategically, the Iranians need Lebanon to support their efforts in Syria to support the regime. Sectarian tensions in Lebanon would endanger Hezbollah's role in Syria. And so
you're saying that Hezbollah, it is in their interest, in order to stay focused on the Syrian conflict,
yes,
to have Lebanon remain stable.
Yes.
There was a video released by Jabhat al-Nusra, the main opposition group in Syria, showing the hostages from Arsil and demanding that Hezbollah withdraw from Syria. However, we haven't seen that happen yet. I don't think it's going to happen now. What's at stake for Hezbollah here?
Hezbollah's presence in Syria is not a Lebanese issue. It is part of a power game that Iran is playing. And March 14 will insist on withdrawal of Hezbollah from Syria. But
it's not going to happen.
But it's not going to happen, but it doesn't mean that March 14 should not keep insisting on that. As far as the Lebanese hostages have become part of the spillover. And some kind of negotiation between the different parties, if it cannot be done directly, indirectly, is inevitable. Even when Hezbollah moved into Qusayr and Yabrud, it was done after negotiations with the very same people that now Hezbollah says we shouldn't negotiate with in Lebanon.
But wouldn't Hezbollah's disarmament weaken Lebanon's ability to defend itself from all these Takfiri groups that we've talked about, that we saw in Arsil?
Well, Hezbollah, if you want to be very technical about it, the position of March 14 is critical of Hezbollah's role in Syria at this point. If you want to focus on that, then this is a very legitimate point. And the point is that there is no excuse for these horrible actions that we've seen. But also, there's no way about mincing the facts that Hezbollah's involvement in Syria has escalated sectarian tensions in Lebanon and escalated the spillover. There's no way to go around that.
Speaking of sectarian tension, former Prime Minister Saad Hariri was here 2 weeks ago, and they're saying that his visit contributed to a sense of moderate Sunni leadership with the election of the Mufti.
Yes.
So what do you think the visit really meant?
I think the visit was very important. It stressed Sunni moderation as as the major force in the Sunni street. And if we look at the 27 Sunni members of parliament in Lebanon, the vast majority are moderate, and they represent the Sunni street. The Sunni street in its majority is moderate, and Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri stressed that. And the election of the new Mufti, Daryan, is a manifestation of this moderation.
So does this mean that the clashes on the border are less likely now that there has been this Mufti election?
Sunni moderation, in fact, means that it gives less room for more radical elements to grow. It means that there is far less chance of the army suffering from these sectarian tensions.
The army, which has suffered great losses, a lot of the critics of this army is that it's very Hezbollah affiliated.
Well, there are critics, these are the critics that say it is affiliated with, it is not affiliated with Hezbollah. It so happened that they were fighting a common enemy, if you wish. But the army is the Lebanese army, and it's very important for us to support the Lebanese army and its independence and give it strength. And I think Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri, by coming with $1 billion of aid to the Lebanese armed forces, was stressing that fact. And the unity of the army should be beyond questioning. The army is the pillar of stability in Lebanon. And anybody who really any critique of the army in this respect is cannot but do us all a disfavor. At this point in time, when the army has done its job in defending the country, we all have a moral obligation to support the LAF and its leadership.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today. That was future MP Dr. Basem El Shabb talking about the recent developments in the country. Back to you, Linda.